Hello, and thank you for joining me, everybody. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today as we're going to be holding our live stream. For those, if this is the first time that you're seeing us, every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we reach out to you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, DLive, on all social media that the internet overlords will allow, to let you speak about the issues that are affecting us all from anywhere in the world, because we believe in free speech. And it's not just an American thing. It's for everyone in the world, no matter where you come from. And we do look forward to seeing your comments, just like we received one from John R. And the camera's looking good. Everything's looking great. Well, we've been tweaking and twiddling and working on it. Bear with me, folks, because at the same time that we've been doing this, literally just before we came on camera, we were just exposed to a scam, one of these groups online who are trying to take your money. So I want to take a moment and just mention, if you receive an email, a text, a contact from social media where someone is telling you, hey, there's this IMF, International Monetary Fund program, they just gave me $20,000. Don't believe that. And they're going to say, oh, it's really great, and the IMF guaranteed that if you're retired, you can get this money, and it's free, tax-free. Don't believe them. That is a lie. There is no such program. When I asked for the name of the program, they couldn't provide it. When I asked for the name of the agency that was giving out the money, they couldn't mention it. They said that they got $20,000 via UPS. UPS will not send cash over in the mail. They're not going to send you a check. No one's going to send you a check through UPS. They're going to send it to your bank. They're going to contact you officially. You can't name it. And of course, when he gives me the phone number, it's a guy in Brazil. I'm going to be following this up as a public service announcement to let people know about these things. We expose companies like this on a regular basis. I just want you to understand, if you get this kind of message, someone says, I'm with the IMF, I just got $20,000. I don't care what's the name on that account. That account has been hijacked. It is not real. It is spam, and they are trying to access your information, calling from Brazil to tell me that they're going to give me American money from Brazil because of an international agency that has no authorization in the United States. I'm sorry. That's wrong, and I am calling that out. So I'm letting you know, and I will do a public service announcement about this because I'm going to follow it up. I took screenshots of the entire conversation so you know what to look out for. Literally, that happened just as we were coming on camera. But that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today. And that's what we do here. We talk with you about the issues that matter to you. Whether it's a public service announcement exposing spam, whether it's talking about what the news media will not tell you, what they are hiding from you, whether it's talking about what's going on with Facebook and their targeting of young women and allowing sex trafficking, whether it's talking about what's going on in Congress, where we have individuals who are trying to be put in by the Biden administration, who are trying to get administrative posts, and they're looking to defund the police. They're looking to eliminate crime. I swear to God, this is true. I'm going to show you the links. I'm going to show you the actual commentary. Maybe it's the news about Antifa shooting people. That's right. There was a shooting by Antifa against people who are protesting the vaccine they're protesting the vaccine mandates. Of course, we want to talk about the censorship here on YouTube. So I have to say it's the pandemic medicine, because if I don't say that, they will shut down this channel. They will eliminate our voice. They will silence us and unperson us because they don't want you to have a conversation about something they haven't approved yet. It's a horrible thing that's happening to America right now. And I have to ask you, if you say something, if you think something on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, on social media, if you say it and it wasn't something that you were told to say, if it wasn't something that the social media and news media told you to say, then is it actually your thought? Can you actually have a thought without it coming from the progressive and democratic socialists of America? Can you have a thought without them telling you first? And we're seeing this around the world. Right now, there are hundreds of thousands of people in France, people in the United Kingdom, in Australia, and New Zealand that are protesting these pandemic medications, these mandatory pandemic medications. And the news media, Facebook has come out and they said, no, you can't talk about these things. You can't even mention these words. How dare you? I'm going to go over that with you. But I want to start with something really simple, something really interesting. Looks like, I'm not sure if Twitter is online or not, but let's start with a really interesting comment. I want to hear your thoughts about this, folks. Did you see this? Jen Psaki, the the press secretary for the Biden administration, Jen Psaki, comes on out and she goes, hey, guess what, folks? It's unfair. You should not be taxed. And your taxes, those taxes, we're going to tax the rich companies, those rich bees that they are, and they shouldn't pass it on to you. How dare they? That's unfair. That's absurd. How could they possibly do that? This is real. By the way, you can't find this anywhere. There is no news agency. I tried to find it. And this is what I'm talking about when I say the news media, they're trying to hide these things from you. There is not one centrist or liberal or left-leaning or progressive news agency that actually covered what Jen Psaki said. You actually have to go to the White House, and that's the only place that you'll see it. It's covered by the White House and everyone on the right. They won't even tell you this, because this is stupid. Talk about absurd. This is insane. And I want you to hear what she actually had to say. I want you to hear, this is the way the Biden administration thinks about regular people. This is what they think you believe. I want you to hear this.
I want to ask you about what Republicans are pointing to in the analysis from the Joint Committee on Taxation. They say, according to, if I've read the chart correctly, more than 16% of taxpayers would see their taxes increase under the bill that's approved by the House Ways and Means Committee. Will the president sign that bill as it is coming out of that committee, or will he insist on the changes so that he will maintain his commitment that taxes won't go up on people making $400,000 a year?
I have not looked at the document or the report that you have put out. Obviously, the president, or that you have referenced, I should say, that the Republicans put out. Obviously, the president's commitment remains not raising taxes for anyone making less than $400,000 a year. There are some, and I'm not sure if this is the case in this report, who argue that in the past, companies have passed on these costs to consumers. I'm not sure if that's the argument being made in this report. We feel that that's unfair and absurd, and the American people would not stand for that. But I will take a closer look at this report and get you a more substantive response. Go ahead, Jackie.
I want to ask you about what
So, can you believe this? They think you're dumb. This is the Biden administration. They think that you are out of your mind and that you're dumb. That you have, in the entire lifetime, 53 years that I have been alive, there has not been one time that we have seen taxes increase for corporations, and that has not been passed on to the public. And the Biden administration knows this. Biden has been in office for 47 years. He knows full well every time that he has authorized an increase in taxes, which he has done often. He's a tax and spend Democrat. When he has done that, every single time that tax has been passed on to the regular people. So this is his way of taxing you. He's not going to do it directly, because that would hurt his chances, his party's chances in the midterm elections for 2022. No, he can't just tax you. He's got to do it indiscriminately, and he's doing this on purpose. They know exactly what's going to happen. So how does he put out a 16% increase in taxes to the middle class and the poor of America? How does he hurt them? How does he get the money that way? Easy. He makes a tax on the companies that you buy stuff from, so that when you're going to buy, and the companies aren't stupid, because we've been seeing inflation is much higher than you think. I mean, you've been to the store, right? And please, if you have, please, like you've seen John do, you can text us at YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, send us your chats, or you can call in at 607-242-1582. And here's the thing, folks. When you go out to the store, did you notice cans are smaller? Did you notice that your bagged food's smaller? Did you notice that if you go out and you're getting fresh meat, especially if you're getting fresh meat, that it's smaller, that there is a national limit shortage on wings, chicken wings, that they're almost impossible to find and the price has jacked up insanely, and they're shrinking the size. John Cordisco, hey John, he mentions inflation is the biggest tax for low-income people. Absolutely it is. And it's the easiest way to devastate a group of people and make them dependent on the free money from government that is being offered by people like the Democratic Socialists of America. They want you to beg and plead and be stuck with them, that you have to vote them in over and over again if you want to have your free money and be able to even eat and have food. And so this is why you're not seeing the left send out this news. And they're telling you, oh, that doesn't exist. Of course, the Biden administration wouldn't increase taxes on anyone under $400,000. They won't even have this story. And that's a problem. Because you hear the news media, social media, they're saying, oh, you can say anything you want. You can speak. You're free. That they're just platforms. They don't stop anyone's free speech. Then why aren't they telling you that the Biden administration is going to pass on a 16% tax to you? Because they know that if they told the public, as you just saw, that they're going to tax companies 16%, and the companies are planning to pass that on to you, you are smart enough, you've been alive long enough. There has never been a tax that was put on large corporations that did not hit the average American citizen. In other words, when they do this, they know they are taxing you. And that's why no one on the left will tell you about it. Not the New York Times, not the Washington Post, not Facebook, not Twitter, not YouTube, Yahoo. They won't tell you this. They don't want you to know. We got two comments that came in. Watching Trains Go By says, they're all in it together. The corporations spend tons lobbying to get what they want. Without complicity, politicians couldn't get elected and corporations couldn't make money because of the regulations. John Cordisco mentions, I'm a little older and remember the destruction of runaway inflation last half of the 1970s. Actually, John, I know you're a little older than me, but yeah, I remember the 70s. I remember double-digit inflation. They called it stagflation under, guess what, President Carter. Because he had a wonderful idea about economics, that he could just do anything. It's like this free money train that you hear from Andrew Yang or you hear from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They think that this isn't going to matter. And they think you're not paying attention. They think that if they don't tell you explicitly, if they're not plastering it on the national news, if CNN isn't covering it, if MSNBC isn't talking about it, if you don't hear Yahoo or you don't see it on Facebook, then it doesn't exist. It's not true. Didn't happen. That's not how it works. And they know that. And they're making a point of not telling you about it. And I thought that was really important to tell you guys about this. I know it's numbers. Nobody likes doing math. Everyone gets upset when they get to see math. And it looks like the internet overlords are messing with the feed again. But I know no one likes to do math. Well, here's the math that's important. It's coming out of your paycheck. You care about money. Right? We all care about money. We all want to get paid. We all want to make more money. Well, when he's increasing these taxes that are coming to you, that's taking money out of your pocket, you're going to get less food. Gas is going to cost more, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. Like their test pilot program to charge you 8 cents a mile. That's right. That's a tax. It's in the wonderful budget from the Biden administration, $3.5 trillion. It's a tax on you for driving your car. You're going to pay the government 8 cents a gallon. And of course, it's only temporary. You know what's also temporary? It's only going to be 15 days. And then you're going to go back to your life. You're only going to have to wear a mask up until you get vaccinated. And on and on and on. Come on, we know the government doesn't do anything temporary. If it's a tax, it's permanent. They will always continue that tax forever and ever and ever. If it gives the government more power, they will continue that over and over and over. You don't believe me? Think of the Patriot Act. And I'm a conservative Republican, and I have issues with a secret court, the FISA courts, that no one gets to see, no one gets to hear about, and yet they have power over you and me. That's a problem. So when you tell me, oh, the government, they wouldn't get more power. They wouldn't just keep giving themselves more and more power and not tell the public about it. Yeah, it's called the Patriot Act. So if you think that the Biden administration, an administration that willingly and with a plan decided to abandon American citizens in a hell zone of terrorists who are headhunting these Americans, if you think that they wouldn't do that because they're too compassionate, I'm sorry, you've been watching YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, social media way too much. Turn off CNN because, yeah, they are doing it, they have done it, and they know how it's going to affect you. They're doing this on purpose. And if you think I'm wrong, then why isn't there even one member of, where's NPR telling you, no, it's not true. You're not going to get taxed. It's not going to go through. Where's NPR? Where's the Washington Times? The Washington Post, New York Times. Where's any of the left-leaning media telling you this isn't true? Republicans are lying to you. The independents are lying to you. Social media is lying to you because no company ever passes on the taxes to you. This isn't a tax to you. John Cordisco mentions, thank God the, quote, independents are waking up to all this nonsense. The general public is waking up. Mike Bowie mentions, I remember $1 billion put into the infrastructure bill to fund the left-wing media. John Cordisco also mentions that the FBI is going to people's homes based on their social media posts. Now, it's not just, and I'm not sure about, I know people are being called, there's a, what's it called? It's a tactic to call the police out on someone based on spam. That happens. But I'm not going to address that. I want to address this other thing that's really important. We know that they are saying these things over and over and over again to us, and they are lying. And we know it. When she says this, she knows she's being dishonest. She knows she is telling you dishonesty, and she knows that in a room filled with every left-wing news media service in the nation and some around the world, that no one's going to cover this. That not one person on the left is going to say, hey, you know what? We should talk about this. They're going to ignore it because they don't care about your taxes. Not doxing, John. It's another thing. I'll get to that. But I want you to understand, you have the power. It was on September 28th, we were out at SUNY Broome with the Civic Engagement Board, with which I am one of the members. And we were enforcing and giving you a solution to this problem. And the solution to the problem, it isn't doxing anyone. It isn't trying to call out police on someone. It's voting. And I will tell you, and I'm not asking you to vote for Republican, conservative, libertarian, anyone. You can vote for whomever you want. What I want is for you to be informed and to vote. Because if you get out and vote, I guarantee our country will change dramatically. That is a fact. It is such a fact that you are told constantly, your vote doesn't matter. It's not true. Your vote doesn't count. They're not letting you go out and vote, which is not true. Not one state, not one county in America is preventing people from voting. They're telling you that, you know what, you The only way we can do the votes is by allowing illegal aliens. In California, they're giving illegal aliens the right to vote. In New York State, they're giving illegal aliens driver's licenses so that they can go online, press one button, literally one button, and be registered to vote. That they're bringing people over the border and saying, hey, that 11, 20 million people, we're going to give them all the right to vote so that it takes away from your vote. You need to vote, and you need to vote right now. And by the way, Jason mentioned what I was talking about, where they call people from online and they try and get the police to silence you. It isn't doxing, John. Jason mentions it. It's swatting. That's what it is. Tony is with us today. Hello, Tony. It has been a good minute. I'm glad that you're with us. James Lucid mentions it's rigged. It's not rigged. There are problems. That is true. And there are irregularities. Again, another term I can't mention. I can't discuss this too much because I did have this channel shut down for 7 days because we were talking about Arizona legally going through a regular process of auditing. And because they did that, and I quoted the AP News, Associated Press, and I quoted the Reuters, they shut down my channel for 7 days because I dared to say the news and tell you what it was, because just like with Jen Psaki, as I just showed you, not one member of the left were telling the public the truth. They weren't telling the public, get prepared, you're going to have less food and it's going to cost more money, and that's how they're going to get away with saying, inflation isn't that bad. We just shrank the amount of food you get by about 10, 15, 20% and charged you an extra 5%. So inflation's only up about 5%. You're only paying maybe another 5 cents on the dollar. Oh, by the way, you have 10, 15, 20% less food to go with it. You know what? That's insane inflation. And is there a single person who is watching this? Is there a single person who hears about this that will tell me I am wrong? That the sizes of cans, the portions of food that you are receiving aren't getting smaller? Please, someone tell me I'm wrong. Show me, because I guarantee you, if you go into your cupboard, you pull out a can of corned beef from 2020, and you look at a can in 2021, the can in 2021 is smaller. Guaranteed. And probably cost more. Watching Trains Go By says, I believe James and you are both right. It might be rigged, but we should never give up on a really good system. We must clean it up for later. Right now, we can't rely on it, however. And John Cordisco mentions that voter ID is racist. ID to go to a restaurant. You need that. You need a vaccine passport. You need an ID to go in to get a driver's license. You need a driver's license to drive a car. You need ID to get onto a plane. You need ID to go to a sporting or entertainment event. You need a vaccine passport to be allowed in. You need all kinds of identification, but an ID to go and confirm that you're voting, that's illegal. That's racist. John goes on to say, it's a smokescreen for an agenda. They want you to think it's rigged so that you stay home. The real voter suppression. And I agree with that. In fact, when I was at SUNY Broome doing the civic engagement process, which we had a couple of speakers there, one of the teachers, Carlo Michalak, I had my good friend Michael Woodward here with me, and of course, there is also myself. We were talking about the entire process. Voting, the 9th Amendment, the 10th Amendment, the fact that the government, in our Constitution, in the Declaration of Independence, and in the amendments, they constantly talk about the fact that you are the most powerful person in the government. And that is a fact. You are the most powerful person. And there are people who tell you about voter IDs are racist or that you can't vote. They're trying to take away your power, because it is so important that they wrote about this, not just in the Declaration of Independence. Our founding fathers wrote about it in the Constitution, and then they made sure that there were 2 amendments, the 9th and the 10th. And guaranteeing and telling it, making it as absolutely clear as it could, that all the power in this government is with you. And the way you use that power is you go out and you vote. And again, I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm not telling you what to vote for, but I am telling you, you need to vote. And we need to get away from these emergency powers like under disgraced former Governor Andrew Cuomo, currently, or like with the current appointed Governor Kathy Hochul, who is just as bad as Cuomo, because Cuomo threw our state into a tailspin, just like we saw with the nation, with all the lockdowns, the shutdowns, the regulations, the vaccine passports, and the mandates. And now we see with Governor Kathy Hochul, we have mandates. She fired 30,000 doctors. And we did a whole video on this. 30,000 doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, which means your quality of care, as we have already seen, is down. People are not getting the surgeries that they need. They're waiting longer in emergency rooms. There are fewer beds for people to go into hospitals to be taken care of. These are facts, documented facts across the country, and especially in New York State. And this is because they got rid of the people who were actually taking care of you. And now they're telling you, oh, but don't worry. Don't believe your lying eyes. You're in the emergency room waiting longer? That's not true. Time is just going by faster. How could you possibly know? And don't worry, we're going to get a doctor there for you. We're going to bring in a nurse in there for you, eventually, at some point. It's a plan. We're going to get doctors. From where? The United States has a shortage of, before COVID, before the pandemic, we were short 1.8 million doctors in the United States. Doctors, nurses, healthcare workers. We were short 1.8 million, almost rounding off 2 million people. We needed 2 million more healthcare workers because we didn't have enough. And then she goes and fires 30,000 of them. Do you think that made things easier or worse? Where's she going to get these doctors from? Oh, I know. She's going to use the National Guard. Well, first of all, 40% of the people who are in the National Guard that have have healthcare equivalent jobs, they're capable of doing it, they're not vaccinated. On top of that, what you're doing is, if Joe, who's a doctor in one town, and he's working there, and he's in the National Guard, they're going to take Joe from his patients and his hospital in one part of New York State, and he's going to send him over to another part. Well, guess what? Yeah, in the new part, let's say you're going from Binghamton, they're taking a doctor from Binghamton, and they're going to bring him over to Rochester. Well, guess what? The patients in Binghamton now have a bigger problem. Yeah, Rochester's a little bit better off, but Binghamton's worse. You haven't fixed the problem. That's not called a plan. That's called shuffling the deck. That's called smoke and mirrors. And we should be upset about that. John mentions, I personally believe next year's midterms will be one of the biggest turnouts as a percentage in 100 years. Firing healthcare workers is like burning crops in the middle of a famine. It is exactly like that. That's a great analogy, John. And it is exactly like that. And it keeps getting worse. And by the way, I know you know about this. You have not forgotten. Now, I'm going to have links for everything I'm talking about so that you can see it for yourself in full context. That's what we do on this program, so that you know what's going on. Here are the factual things, and you get to decide whether you agree with my conclusions. That's up to you. But I want to show you something that's really interesting. See, the reason why Democrats, where we see the Biden administration, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, while we see Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, why are they lying to the American people? Why are they saying stupid things that we know factually are incorrect? Because they know what you are saying. This is from NASCAR, one of the biggest sports in America, one of the fastest growing sports in America. And this is Brandon. I don't know NASCAR. This guy, Brandon, He just won a race. And listen to this. I want you to hear this. 32 seconds. I want you to hear this.
Thank you to all of our partners. Oh my God, it's just such an unbelievable.
Listen to the background and then listen to the reporter. Listen to what you're going to hear.
Moment.
Brandon, you also told me, as you can hear the chants from the crowd, let's go, Brandon. Brandon, you told me you were going to kind of hang back those first two stages and just watch and learn. What did you learn that helped you there in those closing laps?
Oh my God, it was learning how each line didn't stay to one. Everything shifted top to bottom so much.
This is NBC. This is NBC lying to your eyes. Your lying ears didn't hear what you thought you just heard. The public is saying F Joe Biden. And the reporter, as the screams are getting louder and louder, as the public is speaking up, she says, oh yeah, they're saying, let's go, Brandon. Doesn't sound the same, doesn't sound anything like it. She just lied on national TV to you. NBC lied to you, told you what you are hearing isn't what you heard. They want you to believe their story and not believe what you're seeing, what you're hearing, the facts that you are living, the experience you are having. They're lying to your face because just like with Psaki, they don't think you're paying attention. They're going to make sure that they're going to get their message out, even though they know it's absolutely absurd. Because if they know that when the public hears about this, everyone goes, that's not reality. That is not the life I have been living. That this isn't reality. You are lying to me. And you know what? I have a great deal of trouble trying to believe people who are lying to me. When I see people, when I see the news media lie, live, they've done it before. Remember the burning buildings? It's mostly peaceful. It's a mostly peaceful protest. Don't mind the arson that is live on the screen right behind my back. Don't pay attention to that part because that's not important. It's mostly peaceful, minus the arson. Oh, by the way, there was a murder in that building too. We later found out it was in Minnesota, and that live stream that MSNBC was covering, that was actually, there was a man who burned in that building, which happened to be a bar. He was found dead, charred, burned at the mostly peaceful protest. Just, don't pay attention to the murder. Don't pay attention to the arson. And then it turns out to be peaceful. Don't listen to your own ears as you're watching NASCAR and you're hearing the public speak. And of course, the news media is going to say, well, no. That's not quite what you think it is. Because you didn't hear that right. Because you don't know, you can't hear. So they have to tell you what you're hearing. I mean, that should be very upsetting. Let me get back to some of these comments. Tony mentions angry cops on YouTube just did a video about the doctor and nursing. Doctor redistribution is what they mean by equitable. Everyone lives in feces. Tony mentions that I renewed my driver's license same time I switched parties from independent to Republican, and the Broome election board hasn't updated the new selection. And there's your problem. Oh, I've made a decision. Well, we'll get to it eventually. It wasn't the right decision. You didn't do the right thing. So you didn't do what they want you to do. So they're going to take their time on it. See, these are the problems. And folks, we need to speak up about this. You don't have to agree with me. If you think I'm wrong, there is a phone you can call, 607-242-1582. You will be live on here. I will be happy to hear your comments. You can send me a chat like you're seeing from Facebook, from YouTube, from DLive, from Twitter. You can go on there and you can send us a message and say, hey, Mike, I think you're wrong. You're not understanding. The doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, we have an abundance of them. Because that's not true. But maybe you think it is. Maybe you think it's perfectly fine. If we lost 30,000 doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, how could that possibly hurt anyone? Even though we have shown you on this program, as we are hearing from people who are saying they can't get their surgeries now, that they are being delayed, they are being denied health care because Governor Hochul said you have to obey because she used emergency powers. I mean, I'd even say this. If this was something that was put up to a vote and the people of New York said, no, you have to do this or else, that's one thing. Because then it's the public. This is the voice of the people. You notice, why didn't they put this in front of the public as a referendum? Why didn't they go to the state assembly and the state senate, which are controlled by Democrats? New York State is a single party government. Democrats control the entire government, all the state legislature. These are their decisions. So in that ultra positive, ultra blue, safe, secure, democratic, progressive government that we have, so much so that we have members, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is willing to deny people the right to defend themselves, our friends in Israel. She wanted to defund them. She wanted the ultimate defunding of the police, the ultimate defunding of a nation. She wants rockets, the 4,000 rockets that happened this summer in June, when Hamas took $85 billion from the Biden administration, $1 million from the Biden administration. It was given to him in April, and Hamas went to Iran, bought thousands of rockets. I think it was over 4,000 rockets, and tried to kill women and children in Israel randomly. Just decided, hey, we're just going to fire 4,000 rockets. The Iron Dome, provided by the United States to Israel, saved those people's lives. 95% of those rockets did not hit because of the defense of the Iron Dome. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Democratic Socialists of America, came out and said, no, we need to defund that. Those people need to be hit by the rockets from Hamas. That's what her vote was for. That's what her bill was for. Every member of Congress said no. And that's why Kathy Hochul won't put her mandate in front of the public, because she's terrified that if she lets the public actually vote on it, if she puts it in front of her Democratic majorities in the state assembly and the state senate, that they're going to vote against this because the public does not agree. They are so terrified of your power of voting, they don't want you to have a chance to ever get a vote or to allow your representatives to vote, because they know if they did, they're not going to agree with this. They wouldn't let this happen. John mentions the only 10% of soldiers in World War II were fighting at any given time, mostly peaceful. Yeah, I like that. It's true. Yeah, no, everybody wasn't fighting during World War II at every moment of every second, so it was mostly peaceful. World War, yeah, mostly peaceful. I mean, that's the logic they use. It is insane. John mentions the state assembly and state senate say nothing because they want, that way they can say, it's not my fault, it's the governor. It was the executive powers that we gave to the governor, that we will not take away from the governor, that we will not override. Yeah, it's the governor. The governor's doing it. I had nothing to do with that. You're just a member of the assembly or the state senate. You're in control. You can reach out to the governor every day. You have the power and you're just not using it. Oh, it's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. That's a lie. That's just like when we see NBC tell us, you didn't hear what you just heard. That's not true. It's just like when we see the White House say, oh, no one would ever pass on a tax to you. No one would ever tax the middle class or the poor. just because we increase taxes on them. That's never happened before. You've never seen that in your lifetime. No, not at all. They really think you're that dumb. They really do. They really think that you're going to blindly do whatever they want. That's why, like when we were talking at the beginning of the show, that's why just before we started the show today, we had a scammer who tried to get us involved with a scam about the IMF, International Monetary Fund, giving away American money, just giving it to you free. And all you have to do is call a guy down in Brazil. And then you'll get this money by UPS. A complete scam that we're calling out and we're going to do more research on. Folks, this stuff should terrify you. John mentions Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, after voting no, changed it to present after being chewed out. Why? Because it's about politics. It's not about what she thinks. It's not about the reality. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez there's video of it, and I didn't show it because you've seen it by now, of her crying because she wasn't allowed. No one would support her in trying to kill innocent civilians, that she wanted to enable a terrorist organization, Hamas, to be able to fire rockets and effectively kill people. That's what she was voting for. You can word it any way you want. The effect of what she voted for was, I want to take away the Iron Dome. I want to defund Israel. And in doing that, she is enabling Hamas, a world global terrorist organization, to kill women and children effectively. This is the progressive agenda. And they don't like to word it that way because when you say, oh, we're going to enable terrorists to kill women and children, they know that that doesn't go well. So they will say it in every other way. They will reword these things. They will tell you that you don't hear and you don't see what you are hearing and seeing. They will tell you you are a liar for the experience that you are going through as you wait in an emergency room and you have to wait 2-3 extra hours because they don't have staff. Well, that's not a reality. That didn't happen. And folks, if you think I am wrong, if you think I am misrepresenting any of the news that I am showing you, if you think I am if you think the sources I am using are not credible enough, if you think that I am coming to the wrong conclusion, again, I will tell you, I am here to hear from you, just like John, just like Tony, just like, what's your name again? She has a weird name. Well, they have a weird name. Watching Trains Go By. James Lucid. So many others. Mike, you can all speak. You don't have to take what I say as gospel. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to think. I'm asking you to say, why is it the left won't tell me these stories? Why are they hiding this from me? Why are they punishing people for actually saying these things? What are the consequences of the things they are saying and doing? Tony mentions that another issue with healthcare here in the southern tier of New York, nurses are not being paid properly. His real world example is his wife, who had to become a travel nurse to make proper wage and now works outside of the county. Yeah, we're driving people out of the state. I know there's several doctors that I had been speaking to in being the only news media to cover all three the pandemic medication mandates protests, as being the only one to cover that in our southern tier region. I heard from many doctors, many nurses, they're moving. They have moved out of this state, not just the county, not just the city. They moved out of this state because they don't agree with this. It violates the Hippocratic Oath, their oath to give you the best medical service they possibly can. They don't believe in the government micromanaging your private, personal medical information and life. They don't agree with that. They are going to get paid more. Yeah, John, I have to reword this. So it's the pandemic medication and the pandemic medication mandates, because if I actually say what it is, it's kind of like a year ago, you couldn't say the word COVID. Because if you said it, they'd shut you down. They'd wipe out the information. Hundreds of thousands of videos were wiped out, removed, because you were quoting the mainstream media and citing and quoting on screen the CDC reports. And if you happen to mention literally put up the report from the CDC a year ago, almost up until about 3 months ago, you put up a CDC report, you could read that report verbatim and YouTube would remove you. Facebook would put a little sticker on top of, you've seen those stickers where they say, oh, this is questionable. Wait a minute, I read the CDC data. Literally, word for word, without a skip, word for word, read the data from the CDC itself, and they will put a sticker up saying, well, that's a questionable source. Not everyone agrees. Experts say that's not quite right. Wait a minute, it's the CDC. They are the expert. That's where your experts are going to quote. So if I read it verbatim and you're telling me it's questionable, how am I supposed to think that it's honest and true and fair? How am I supposed to believe you when you're telling me that the very information that you are providing me is questionable if I quote it? If I say it verbatim, word for word, in complete context, you will tell me I've done something wrong. Does that make sense, folks? Is anyone understanding that? Because I don't. It's one thing to say, okay, Mike, I don't agree with your conclusion. Okay, you don't have to. I've never told you. See, I'm not a democratic socialist. I don't require people to agree with me. I don't look for authorization, and you shouldn't either. No one should have to approve your comments. No one has to agree with your opinion and your conclusions on the facts. If you have a solid, credible fact, no one should question it. It's not a matter of your truth, because that's just a way of saying I'm lying to you. There is no your truth. There is the truth, and then there are opinions and conclusions. The truth is the truth. Your opinion, someone can agree or disagree with. Facts are facts. And that's the thing. I'll give you another fact. We are told at this moment, 200 Americans are lost somewhere in Afghanistan. We have no idea. We don't know how many people. We don't know where they are. We just know that members of Congress, Democrats and Republicans alike, keep getting messages from American citizens who are saying, I'm stuck in Afghanistan. I was abandoned by the Biden administration. I want to come home. How can I get home? We have been hearing that since August 15th. Literally, since August 15th. It has been over 45 days that Americans have been unable to come home. And the Biden administration knew it. And I know you're going to say, well, Mike, you don't know what you're talking about. I've heard people say this to me. Even though I'm quoting sources, I've had people go, well, how do you know that's true? How can I trust you? Okay, you don't have to trust me. This is from C-SPAN. C-SPAN, completely unedited, no commercials. These are the words from General Milley to members of Congress at a congressional hearing on September 28th that almost no one watched. And I want you to hear, this is, I have it queued up already.
Do all of you agree that Secretary of State Blinken...
This is from Imhoff. Senator Imhoff is making this statement at a senatorial congressional hearing. And he's talking about the statement, and I want you to hear this very clearly, because these are their words.
When he made his analysis as to how many people would be here, but would still be there, he talked about the 10 to 15,000 citizens left behind, and then evacuated some 6,000. That would mean a minimum of 4,000 would be would still be there now. Would anyone disagree with that? By your silence, I assume you agree.
I have no, I personally don't believe that there are 4,000 American citizens still left in Afghanistan, but I cannot confirm or deny that, Senator.
So you think Secretary of State was probably wrong in his analysis? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And just for the record.
Okay. So there is no question here. There is no question. This is coming from the Senate at a Senate hearing. That is Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, as he is telling us directly, he has no idea how many Americans are over in Afghanistan. But he didn't say, well, your math is wrong. He didn't say, oh, there can't be 4,000 people. He didn't say, oh, well, no, we know for a fact it's 200. No. They're not even questioning it. Not one of them said, oh, Senator, you're wrong. Your math is wrong. Not one. And notice the news media has run with this, and they're telling you this is the lie they're telling you about Afghanistan. They told you back in August 1st, July, they were telling you there's 10 to 15,000 Americans in Afghanistan. This is coming from Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. They're quoting him. Then after August 15th, with the complete failure of the, according to Joe Biden, the extreme success of losing everything to the Taliban. We lost planes, we lost weapons, we lost ammunition, we lost air bases, we lost the country of Afghanistan to the Taliban. The extreme success of losing everything to the Taliban. And at that moment, it became, oh, well, there's, we don't know how many people are in Afghanistan. Just a couple thousand. Then on August 31st, after promising the American people that no American would be left behind, that's Joe Biden. Not only in 2019, he said it in 2021 as well. He said, I will not leave any American behind. We will get them all out. Except on August 18th, General Milley said, well, except for those who want to stay. We don't know who would want to stay in a terrorist nation with 3 terrorist organizations, the Taliban, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda, all looking to kill Americans, who have been trying to kill Americans for 20 years. Hang on one second. Thank you for calling in. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I'm your host, Michael Voss. What's your first name?
Hey, Mike, how you doing? John Cordisco.
Hey, John. What's going on?
Interesting show today.
Yeah.
It's I'll tell you something. I shake my head in awe and wonder at it all, because the reason why you're getting, like, say, for example, how many people are left in Afghanistan, the reason why you're getting 8 different answers, because you have to be very coordinated and have an excellent memory to lie. I mean, lies are all over the place, and they're not even coordinating their lies properly.
Well, that's why they're going up with general numbers. It's around 200 or 15,000 or thousands of. They love to say these things. They don't know.
Can you imagine? You have the Secretary of Defense Austin, who says, "I don't personally believe there's 4,000 Americans left in Afghanistan, but I have no evidence or any proof at all to make that claim. But that's what I think."
Yeah.
Really?
I have no idea. I have no idea what the number is, but the number isn't whatever you say it is.
Yeah, well, that's my truth.
Yeah, that's my truth. My truth is I have no idea what the number is, but it can't be any number that you happen to say right this moment.
I said that the other day on one of my
crazy.
episodes. I said, what would happen if 10% of all the drivers in the United States decided that a red light was go and a green light was stop?
Chaos.
That's their truth. Red means go. It'd be total chaos.
Yeah. You can't. That's why there is no such thing as your truth. There is no your truth.
Kamala Harris said to that girl about the Israelis, well, that's your truth, that they're committing genocide. Well, no, there's no such thing as your truth.
No, it is the lie that makes it easy. It's your truth that you're saying in arson as we're telling you it's a mostly peaceful protest. That's your truth. No, it's a burning building with a dead body in it. That's the fact. You can't tell me that's my truth. That's the fact.
It's your truth that the police departments all over the United States, all they do is hunt young black men. So that's my truth, so it must be true.
Yeah, except there is no evidence of that in any data anywhere. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And that's very much like 1984 doublespeak and all the phrases he uses. It's really amazing how a book written so long ago has so much relevance today.
Actually, I'm about to get to that. It's one of the stories that I was going to talk about here on the show, and I have it queued up. Yep.
I think social media and the internet has accelerated that 50 times over what it normally would be.
No, it's really bad. There's this artist. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's called Just One Guy. He usually talks about video games and comic books and entertainment. He's an entertainment guy on the internet. And I want to show you, listen to this. It's on the screen right now. This is from his show on September 30th. And I think he made this wonderful statement because this was right after YouTube said, you can't tell us, you can't speak about the pandemic medications at all. And this is what he had to say in part.
So long as the video doesn't violate community guidelines or the channel doesn't show a pattern of promoting vaccine hesitancy. I've never seen someone argue like a lawyer, communist, capitalist, and politician at the same time until now. Bitch, either we can ask questions about vaccines or we can't. You can't have it both ways. How can someone talk about the personal experience?
Character, it's cool.
Well, you cut off what he was saying, but yeah. What he's saying is, how can you be told, yes, you can ask any question, except you can't speak the questions. You can't ask any question. You can't say them out loud. You can't tell people about the questions, but you can ask a question. And if you put it on social media, we're going to strike it. We're going to remove it. We're going to censor you. We're going to unperson you. If you say it like Jen Psaki, we're going to tell you that that's absurd. That could never possibly happen, even though for the last half century it's been happening.
It's like Brian Stelter said once, that piece of blank, that we're not taking away your freedom of speech. We're taking away your freedom of reach. You can say and think anything you want to, but nobody can hear it.
No one can hear it. No one can discuss it. No one can go anywhere with it. This is insulting and bad. And this is insane.
They actually come up with a phrase. We're not taking away your freedom of speech, just your freedom of reach. It's cleverly that rhymes, but, you know.
It's insane to me. And, you know, we see it all the time. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. On how many news sources, major news media sources in the Southern Tier have told you that on October 9th, there is going to be a protest of the pandemic medications and the orders by Governor Hochul that have removed, that have fired, that have dismissed and removed from our state 30,000 healthcare workers, that they're going to protest this because they have a lawsuit going on. Have you heard anyone else in the news media even mention this?
No, you got crickets, of course.
No one's talking about it. No one's reporting on it. I'm the only one. You know, what about, well, I don't care about that. How about this? Yesterday, I was covering Larry Sharpe. I'm going to have that video up a little bit later. Larry Sharpe just announced that he's looking to run for governor of New York State again. And he did a great job the last time that he ran. And here he is. He's a member of the Libertarian Party. He's coming out. He came to Binghamton, New York yesterday to talk about his run for governor. Did you hear anyone in the news media even mention he was in town?
Well, of course not. Now, I don't follow local media much anymore. I'll go on a website now and then, but I've given up on local media, even though there are some individuals do a good job overall, though they really suck.
And I noticed when I was talking about Larry Sharpe running for governor, the internet was like screwing with the signal. And I see people are having problems watching the show at this moment. So let me put that image up again. Yes, there is a man, well-known, Libertarian Party, did very well, got many votes, several percentage, in getting votes in the governor's race against Andrew Cuomo. He's going to run against whomever the Democrats put up this time. And he may actually win. He has a legitimate chance. And no one in the news media even decided to ask the public. So if you had a question for Larry Sharpe, if you wanted to say, why are you running? If you wanted to ask him, what do you think about emergency powers? If you want to ask him about mandates and where he stands with that, you couldn't do it.
Well, we do know who the Democrats are going to run because the current governor, the new governor, already said she was going to. So
yes, Kathy Hochul suddenly wants to be governor, even though she was never good enough to win the governor's race. And that's why she's bending over backwards for the Democratic Socialists.
It's funny, 6 to 8 years from now, if you're playing Trivial Pursuit, one of the questions would be, who was the lieutenant governor that took over for Cuomo? And nobody will remember.
No one will know because no one cares. Her current lieutenant governor wants to defund the police. They want no police in this state.
It's like, I'll give all the history buffs out there a question. Besides Harry Truman, who were FDR's vice presidents? Nobody really remembers.
No one cares. Yeah, Tony. Yes, Tony. Larry Sharpe is running again. And again, no one knows because the news media won't tell you. So you're supposed to have these questions that you can't ask, and they're going to provide you with answers to questions you didn't ask, and they're not going to tell you what's happening in your own backyard.
Did you see the young lady that interrupted the Virginia gubernatorial debate? She was a third-party candidate, and she was in the audience, and she was just livid.
No.
Now, she's an ultra-progressive, but that's besides the point, though. She said, listen, I should be on that stage, too. I'm on the ballot. I collected enough signatures. I should be up there. And it was a big deal. And hardly anybody covered it, but some local YouTubers did cover it. And you can see a lot of what she said outside the building. And that's the point. The media didn't pick it up. All they picked up was she made a disturbance.
No, I see. And that's, if you listen to the local news media, the one time they showed up to one of the pandemic medication mandate protests, when they showed up, they actually did, 30 seconds? It was a 2-hour event. They put out 15 seconds of coverage, literally 15 seconds of coverage, and then told everyone, well, they're disgruntled. Wait a minute. Let's think about this for a second, folks. And again, these are the questions they're telling you that you should be able to ask that they won't answer and that they don't want you to hear. Here's the question. And I want you to answer this for me, John. Does it make any sense that someone is fighting for the right to work? They're fighting for their jobs. They want to continue to work. And the news media is saying they are disgruntled workers. Have you ever heard of a disgruntled worker who is fighting to keep their job and to continue to work? Does that make any sense?
Well, of course not, because you get to label everything. And this misinformation does work, and the barring of information does work. Just look at the Hunter Biden laptop thing before the election. It works. So if it didn't work, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's insane. They're trying to twist people's opinion. Your hero, that same doctor that was your hero 18 months ago, that was fighting tooth and nail, that nurse that was fighting tooth and nail to save your life, those healthcare workers at the nursing homes that were fighting tooth and nail to try and save the 16,000 people that were killed because of Andrew Cuomo's executive powers given to him by the single party state government of New York. Those same people are now bad guys and disgruntled because they want to continue to fight to save your life. How dare they do that?
No, what they're guilty of, what they're ultimately guilty of in the mortal sin of the Democrats and the progressives is this. You didn't go along with what we wanted.
And here's my thing. I'm wide open. This is international. I talk to people in, you've seen on the show, we've talked to people in Sweden, in the United Kingdom, in Germany, in India, in Peru.
Australia is out of control.
Yeah. But I mean, these are the people who've come on to this program, and I know the audience includes those countries. And I have yet to hear the progressives come on and actually say, well, no, you misunderstand. those aren't the facts, or your conclusion is wrong. You notice they never do that.
Well, no, when you control the narrative, when you control all media, whether it be social media, we'll call it the cable news networks, when you control the message for the most part, you don't have to debate. You don't have to debate facts because you control the message.
Well, that's like what just some guy was just mentioning. And just to point out that fact, again, we just heard that from Congress. You didn't hear any of the news media quote Senator Imhoff as he was talking to General Mark Milley, when he was talking to Commanding General Ken McKenzie, when he was talking to Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. You didn't hear not one news agency said, hey, how many people are in Afghanistan? And this is a question I have been asking of the New York 19 representative, that's Antonio Delgado. I've been asking him for well over a month now. What about the people in Afghanistan? He will not even mention the word. He will not mention the word Afghanistan.
No, because
he will not.
Because they can't control the narrative on that, and it's an indefensible position, so they just choose to ignore it, and it will go away if we ignore it.
They're making sure that no one, and I promise people, I told everyone watching the program, go back and look at the Sunday shows. You'll see on the live streams, I've been telling you, the second we got out of Afghanistan, we were told it was an extreme victory and nothing else. No one's talking about it. They do not want to cover this.
No.
And there's a reason for that. And if they don't care about Americans in Afghanistan, why do they care about you?
Oh, of course, because it's really hard to describe to people to understand the mentality of those people, because it makes much zero sense and it's absolutely absurd and ridiculous. But yet, tens of millions of people and those that control the culture in this country all think that way. And it's really, really hard for normal people like us, everyday, just working people, not even conservative people, just everyday people, to understand how ridiculous and doublespeak their mentality is. It's hard to explain to people. It really is.
It is, but it isn't. It is, but it isn't. And, that's what we do here on the show. And again, it's open to everyone. Let me ask you, is there anything else? Because I want to make sure the line is open just in case anyone else wants to call in.
Well, not so much really, but the thing is, though, I want to impress one thing about people that, and this is where I criticize Trump, even though I'm a huge Trump fan. Okay. Stop saying about the rigged this and rigged that. That's voter suppression for Republicans and conservative people and independents. If you think the whole thing is rigged, you're going to stay home. That's the plan. They're doing voter suppression on you. Don't stay home. Get out to vote. No. Don't make any excuses why you can't. There's no reason why you can't vote in every single election, local, federal, and state.
Well, John,
do not stay home.
John, I agree with you. And when I was at the celebrating National Voter Suppression Day, Voter Registration Day at SUNY Broome, as I'm a member of the Civic Engagement Board, it was completely nonpartisan. And as always on the show, I never tell people who to vote for. I just tell you to vote. But I want to make it clear, there are problems. See, the thing about Arizona, everyone wants to say, well, look, it was legit because Biden got more votes. That wasn't what they were looking for. That wasn't what an audit is for. And I have to be careful with my wording here because the channel will suddenly disappear.
Yeah.
But what I can say is the purpose of the action in the state of Arizona was to find out the problems. Were votes miscounted? What we found out is 50,000 votes were incorrect. They were sent out to individuals who couldn't possibly vote. They were sent out to people without any verification. They were written, mistyped, and there goes my screen.
Well, what they were
I have
doing,
frozen already. Hang on.
Well, what they were doing was, and I'm not going to say anything that gets you in trouble because I do that on my channel. I mince my words. What they were showing was the huge holes in the system. And he could even say, for the most progressive person, this is potentially a huge issue for both sides, but nobody wants to listen. Your door is wide open in your house with no alarm system. Well, that's okay. Nobody's going to break in. Well, I'm not so confident that's going to happen. So I'm going to put a lock on my door and put in a security system. That's just prudent.
Well, that should be prudent, but the problem is we're being told you can't even speak about it. You can't even tell people about it.
I'll just leave you with this. It's a lot easier for the progressive Democrats to do these kind of go around collecting. California now is mail-in ballots for everybody. It's easier to go around these big apartment complexes in these really intense populations. You can pick up 200-300 of those ballots in a couple of hours, where the more conservative areas and states are more rural. They're much more difficult to collect, and that's the strategy.
Well, that's one of the strategies. I agree with that. It's troubling, but let's open up the line, because there are other people who may want to say something about some of the things we're talking about.
Okay.
But I do thank you.
Let everybody out there exercise your right to vote. There's a lot of people in Arlington National Cemetery that died to give you that right. Do not throw it away.
And I agree with that. Absolutely. Thank you, John.
Take care, Mike.
All right. And so, folks, as you can see, you too can call into the program at any time, and you can let us know what you think. This is about your voice from anywhere in the world, because we believe in your First Amendment right to be able to speak and to say what you think, no matter what. And that means that if you disagree with any part of what I'm saying, any part of the comments that I'm making, any of the sources, please let me know. I'll be happy to do that. Now, while we were speaking with John, and I know that I've mentioned a couple of key words, and if you've been watching the screen, you've noticed it's frozen a couple times here. We've been interrupted from the internet overlords because they don't like what we've been doing. They don't like some of the words that we have used. We've hit trigger words a couple of times here. So hopefully that doesn't eliminate my channel, which it could. That's why I'm saying things like the pandemic medication instead of using other words, because that'll get me in trouble. That's why I can't say the name of a state and the process, the count that they were doing. I can't mention them at the same time, because that has gotten this channel eliminated for 7 days. So it's a problem. And excuse me. 1 second, folks. So these are problems. You can't do them at the same time. Otherwise, if you do, well, that's it. Your voice is going to be eliminated. I want to show you guys something that I think is very important. Did you hear about Antifa? Did you know that Antifa just shot someone in Washington State? That they were so angry with people who were fighting against the pandemic medication, the mandating of the pandemic medication, doing the same thing that we have seen hundreds of thousands of people in France do, things that we have seen hundreds of thousands of people in the United Kingdom do, and people down in Australia and New Zealand, that these members of this violent extremist organization, Antifa, went out and they shot someone. And you know why I know you didn't hear about it? Because not one news agency on the left reported this. They didn't tell you about this. They don't want you to know that even right now, under the Biden administration, that Antifa is still causing riots and violence, that they are still violently attacking American citizens. They don't want you to know this. They want you to think it all ended when we got rid of Orange Man Bad. Orange Man Bad's gone. The riots are gone. No, they're not. That's a lie. They are lying to you when they say, oh, it all ended. It was all because of Orange Man Bad. No. These domestic terrorists have been at it before Orange Man Bad. In fact, during the time with Barack Obama, who actually lifted them up and made them a national movement with the shooting of people in Dallas. And they've been going since. In fact, this individual, as you can see, this is a screenshot from a security camera. He just turns around and starts shooting at people. He actually hit someone. This is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America who then turned around after he got arrested for shooting someone. He deleted his social media accounts, including his Twitter account, so that you couldn't see how violent he is. He named himself on Twitter as a professional anarchist, thug, and paid protester. This is a member of Antifa, celebrating his being part of the Antifa movement. And the news media doesn't want you to know about it. They don't want you to know that Antifa is still, they've done it before. They've killed people before. This guy was trying to kill American citizens because he doesn't like what they have to say. Because the pandemic is racist. Did you know that? Because that's what Antifa thinks. That's what the Democratic Socialists of America think. I would love to hear from the Democratic Socialists of America, their Ithaca chapter. So if you think it's only in Washington state, they're across this country. There is a Democratic Socialists of America chapter in Ithaca, New York. And they engaged in violence in 2020 as well, attacking individuals. That's on the record. We've covered that before. But the news media doesn't want to tell you about these things. And when they do somehow tell you about it, they hide it from you. They minimize it. They try and find 15 seconds of stuff that you won't pay attention to. Just like they don't want to tell you, the 15 seconds, it takes 15 seconds to see that Jen Psaki is making up crap. She's just making it up, telling you, oh, no, we're not taxing the middle class. Not directly. We're going to tax the company so they can tax you. They try and hide stuff like when they say, oh, you didn't hear what you thought you heard. You're watching NASCAR. No, what you heard isn't what you think. You don't know what's going on until they tell you. They don't want to tell you that Antifa is still as much of a problem in this nation and as violent and as dangerous as it has always been. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to talk about that. They don't want you to think about that. That's why this channel is having problems right this second. They don't want you to think that there are thousands of Americans, not 100, thousands of Americans were abandoned in Afghanistan. And I will not forget this. It's been over 45 days. I believe we're at 50 days that the Americans were abandoned, discarded, thrown away by the Biden administration. And not one, virtually not one Democrat will speak up and say, our job as a government, as a nation, is to take care of our people and to bring them home safe, if possible. We're not even trying to do that. They won't even talk about it. They don't want you to have that discussion. They're telling you, oh, it's only 100 people. Well, according to their own math from Secretary Blinken, it's 4,000 people, not 100. Why can't they get this right? Because they don't want to get it right. They don't want you to think about it. They don't want you to think or to speak. Why didn't they cover the protests that have been going on? Why is it you don't know about rallies that are happening in your community? Because yes, it's happening in New York, and it will be in downtown Binghamton on October 9th. And they don't want to tell you that. But guess what? They also don't want to tell you it's happening across this nation. There are protests with hundreds and thousands of people across this nation at this moment. They don't want you to think about it. They don't want you to think. They don't want you to do anything except what you're told to do. And that's got to scare you. They didn't want to tell you that there's a candidate that you may prefer, or maybe you don't. Tony mentioned he's not interested in the Libertarian Party. That's fine. I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative Republican. But I believe that Larry, who is a friend, and I've spoken on his show and he's spoken on my show several times. I'll have him on again. You know what? He deserves the right and the respect and the opportunity to speak to you. So why isn't the news media talking about it? This is a gubernatorial candidate. a recognized candidate who has already done this and has done an excellent job of getting his name out there. Why won't anyone else in the news media cover this man? He came to our city. He's been going to many counties talking about this, but he was in our county and no one in the news media showed up, and they knew about the event. They didn't care because you're not supposed to think. And that's the part that upsets me so much, because you're not supposed to think. Instead, you're supposed to just accept what they're telling you. You have to accept what they said. They said you have a mandate on this pandemic medication. You have to accept it. You have to accept defunding our cities. I want you to see something, because this is really important. I want you to see this. This is going to affect, this is a nominee, a judicial nominee. This is someone who's going to decide your life. They're going to decide the way our nation, the laws in our nation are decided. Not the Supreme Court, but all the cases below the Supreme Court. Cases that are going to affect you. And I want you to hear about one of the choices from the Democratic Party. This happened this week. It was on C-SPAN. This is from Forbes, the video. This is in Congress. It's a Senate hearing for one of the Democratic choices from the Biden-Harris administration. And I know no one paid attention. Just listen to the small part. Listen to the small part and then tell me what you think about this.
B&E into a non-vacant property.
Okay. He's talking about this judicial candidate. Her name is Rachel Rollins. And Rachel Rollins she published what the laws she thinks don't count in America. These are laws she will not enforce. These are laws that you can break and she will be okay. And if you're wondering what B&E is breaking and entering. And she thinks breaking and entering, as you're hearing, doesn't count. It's not a law. Doesn't need to be enforced. You don't need to pay attention to this. Okay, let me go back. Oh, crap. Missed it. Did this to myself. Where is it? Of course, I lost my moment.
Typically pretty bad. Ain't a crime under her. What else? You could say, well, at least none of these are violent, right? Well, breaking into a non-vacant property, that ought to be vacant, because that way no people know property to sleep or escape the cold. Well, what's a non-vacant property like? What's the next one on the list? B&E into a non-vacant property to sleep or escape the cold. Well, what's a non-vacant property like? I don't know, your home? So apparently what she's saying is if it's cold outside, it is no longer a crime for somebody to break into your home, so they can trespass on your property. They can break into your home, they can commit larceny, and apparently sleep in your living room. Now, I want each of you to imagine, look, there's an element of how would you answer one of your constituents if someone is doing this? And the answer from the prosecutor is, we will always dismiss the case.
Think about that. And I want you to think about that, okay? So we hear that the Democrats are putting up a candidate. They're putting in front a judge to be approved, to be able to decide cases. And her choice, this is Rachel Rollins. And you really need to know this name. And you really need to know what's going on here. She has published that she will not count as law breaking and entering, larceny, stealing, that someone, as Ted Cruz, reading from her document, has said, besides she wants to defund the police, she will allow someone to break into your home, steal your property, and also occupy your house. That they could break down your door, come in, steal all your money, steal all the stuff you have in your house, sit in your living room, and just hang out. And none of that is a crime. That's all legal according to the Democratic Socialists. This is what the progressives are putting out. And this is what you didn't see on the national news. You didn't see this from CNBC. You didn't see this on MSNBC, ABC, CBS. They weren't covering this. They didn't bother. They didn't think it's important that you know that the progressives under the Biden-Harris administration are putting people into our government who don't believe it's a crime to break down your door, steal your stuff, and then live in your house and on your property. That's not a crime. None of those are crimes. And by the way, even if you thought it might be a crime, because according to them, it's not a crime, they want to get rid of the police so you have no one to complain to. There's no one you can't even get an officer to come to your house to tell you that those are no longer crimes because they got rid of the police too. That's their plan. This is what they don't want to tell you, but this is what they are doing. And that's the thing that gets me upset. This is what they are doing in our government. These are the people they are putting in our government, in some cases for lifetime positions, and you don't know any of these names, and you don't know what they're doing. If this woman isn't a member of Antifa, I'd be shocked. And we know what the results are because we've seen. Look at San Francisco. How many Walmarts closed down because of there is no crime? It's not a crime to steal. As long as you steal less than $1,000. And what happened? That community lost 19 of their Walmarts. That community no longer has the ability to buy the things they need because they got robbed to death. 19 stores gone. They're talking about also allowing them to break into your home. So it's not just a commercial store. They can break into your home. No crime. It's okay. That's legal now. Did you vote on it? No. Did your representatives vote on it? Well, they voted to put this person in place. That's what the Senate is doing right now. The Senate is voting on this. You didn't know that. The news media didn't tell you about that. They didn't tell you that this is a stalemate and that Kamala Harris is going to come in and she's going to make the 51st vote to make sure that this person, this woman, Rachel Rollins, is going to be put into government so that she can tell you there are no laws, that criminals can do anything they want against you and it's okay. And this is what happens. This is on the news. This is unedited. The links will be included at the end of the description of the show. Let me ask you, does anyone who is watching this, anyone that you know, forget about just who's watching this program, is there anyone you know that doesn't think breaking into someone's house is a crime? Is there anyone you know that thinks that stealing your property is not a crime? Does anyone agree with that? Who isn't a member of BLM Antifa, the far left? The progressive leaders of tomorrow, I'm sure, think that's perfectly fine. In fact, they advise people to steal and break property all the time. But outside of the fringe of the far left, like the progressive leaders of tomorrow, which is also known as Plot, outside of Citizen Action and Antifa and BLM, the rest of the nation, the overwhelming majority of the nation, see that as a problem. And I think you do too. And tell me, how long is America going to be the nation that millions of people want to come to when they hear about this? Actually, I stand corrected. Millions more will want to come because they want to take your stuff. They know there's an open border. There's 400,000 people that are on their way to our southern border at this moment. Let me say that again. There are 400,000 illegal aliens that are coming to America's southern border right now because the southern border is wide open. And we know this because the Biden administration, under Secretary Mayorkas, 17,000 Haitians came to Rio del the bridge at the southern border, 17,000, not the 10,000 we were told, 17,000, and 12,000 of those people were sent into America. Over 75%. 75% of 17,000 people were just, hey, America's an open door. Go wherever you want. And we let them into our nation. This is on top of the 1.3 million people that we just opened up the doors and let them into our nation. So there's 400,000 other people who are saying, well, if 1.3 million got in before me, and 12,000 out of 17,000 Haitians were just open door, let them in too, why won't they let me into America? Especially when we're being told that there are no laws. You get into America, there are Democrats, they will not arrest you for breaking and entering, to break into someone's house, to live in someone's house, to steal someone's stuff. And you know what? The rest of the world doesn't have our stuff. They would love to have an iPhone so that they could sell it and get the money. They would love to have a big screen TV so they could sell it to someone so they could have the money. Because America has a ton of stuff that no one else in the world has. A ton of stuff. And they want to take your stuff so they can get money. They want your stuff. And we have progressives like Rachel Rollins, who's going around and saying, yes, give it to them. Let them take anything they want. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, let them take what you want. Cori Bush, Ilhan Omar. How many of these people? They're in our government right now, and they're saying, yes, give it all away. Let them take whatever they want, because America is such a horrible place. It's such a terrible place that we have 20 million people who came illegally into this nation that are willing to live under a bridge. This is how great America is. Anyone who tells you that America isn't great, tell them they don't know what they're talking about. Because it is a fact that people thought Haitians, not in Haiti, Haitians who had already escaped years ago and went to Brazil and to South America, decided that it was better to live under a bridge in America than to live in Haiti or Brazil or anywhere in South America, Central America, or Mexico. They went through 12 different countries, abandoned their home country to live under a bridge in America, because America is that much better. The quality of life in America is so good, living under a bridge is better than living in these other countries. And you want to tell me that America is a bad place? You want to tell me that America is horrible, bad, terrible, racist? Really? Really? Then why are these people living under a bridge in our country rather than going home or living in the other countries that they've already gone to? I seriously want to hear someone tell me the answer to that. I would love to hear some progressive give me an answer on that. I would love to hear them refute this. I would love to hear them try and refute this and say, well, Mike, that's just not true. Please tell me how it's not true. If you think I'm wrong, tell me how. Call in 607-242-1582. Leave a comment on YouTube, Facebook, DLive, Twitter. Tell me how I am wrong when we are watching people who are actively, at this moment, that they were living under a bridge in America, and that was better. And you want to tell me that America is not a great country? I don't understand how you think that. I also don't understand how Rachel Rollins thinks that America is a horrible place. I don't know how she comes up with that idea. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, does it make sense to you? I'm asking. Tell me, do you think it makes sense to you? Because I don't think it makes any sense. I don't think that's... And I know there's more people who are watching this, and not everyone wants to speak out because they're afraid they're going to have some retribution, that someone's going to come after you. Guess what? They're already coming after you. When they have members that they are individuals that they are trying to put into our government for life in many cases, that they're trying to put these people into our institutions, and those people think that you are evil. They believe in critical race theory. They believe that if you're white, you are a racist, and that if you're black or Hispanic or Asian, that you are a victim. There is no other choice. Well, no, that's not true. Let me correct myself. For Larry Elder, for Larry Sharp, for me, for Gothics, for just some guy, for Joe Ripa, for us, well, there is something. We're white nationalists. That's what they will tell you. They put it on the LA Times and said Larry Elder is a white supremacist. Why? Because he's not doing what he's told. If you happen to be a black conservative, whether you're a libertarian or Republican, just a conservative, it doesn't matter. If you're not a member of BLM, if you're black and Hispanic and you're not a member of the far left Democratic wing, well, then you are a race traitor and you are a white supremacist, according to the very same people that define the entire nation. They define the world as white means racist, black means victim. Black and brown people are victims, white people are racists. That's what critical race theory is. That's what they're teaching your kids right now. And if you happen to be black or brown skinned and you don't agree with that, well, then you're a white supremacist. And there is no way out of this loop, this cycle. There is no escape from that. You are forever, from birth, either going to be a racist or a victim. And if for some reason you try not to be a victim, well, then you are an extreme racist. That's the only answer they have. And the only way to fight that is to take stuff from the racists to give it to someone else. Preferably their leaders like Patrisse Cullors, who then went out, got all the money from Black Lives Matters, and went and bought herself 5 homes in white neighborhoods. And she's a communist. She's a straight up communist. And her answer was, oh, let me get all the money from BLM. I'm not going to go and feed the poor. I'm not going to put any programs out to help people to keep them off of drugs or help them recover from drugs. No, she's going to go out and buy multi-million-dollar homes for her and her family. Not for the community, not an apartment building, not something open to the public. She got it for her and her family. 5 homes, multi-million-dollars. Thank you very much, BLM. That's what the communists will do. This is what the communists and the progressives actually do. They're going to tell you, oh, no, but we're good guys. You're a victim. I'm standing up for the victim. As she enriches herself. You think she's an outlier. Oh, she's separate. That's not real. Bernie Sanders, 3 homes, multi-million-dollars, has never worked a real job in his life. He is a self-avowed communist. There seems to be a problem here. Hang on. There's a pattern. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has a $17,000 a month apartment that is gated and closed. You can't move in there. Even if you had the money, you don't have the connections to go and live there. Oh, what about Cori Bush? Representative Cori Bush. She wants to defund the police and hired a private security force spending $70,000 to protect herself when everyone else, no one else could have guns, no one else could have any kind of defense, no one else could get the police. You can't have that, you little peon, you peasant, you American citizen. But her, the neo-noble, the democratic socialist, she gets to have a private security force to protect her. Folks, if you think I'm wrong, tell me why you think I'm wrong. If you think I'm not understanding this, please tell me. And I know that we've been suffering again from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, social media. They don't like us talking about these words. They don't want you to think. They want you to do as you're told. They want you to obey. They don't want you to question this. You're not supposed to notice these stories. You're not supposed to talk about these stories. You're not supposed to even know they existed, that this is happening in our government right now, and it will have consequences for decades. You're not supposed to think about what's going to happen to your children. Think about it. You've taught a child their entire life that some people are racist by birth. Do you think that's possibly going to affect the way they're going to deal with people for the rest of their life? You've taught some kids that they are victims for life. Do you think that's going to have an effect on how their self-esteem, how they're going to treat themselves, how they're going to deal with other people? Do you think there's a consequence for this? When we have members of government, as I just showed you, Rachel Rollins, who's going out there and saying, no, there's no such thing as crime. What crime? What kind of crime are you talking about? You're kidding. Stealing someone's stuff, it's okay. Let them steal. Let them break into your house. Let them take your stuff and live on your property. This is what the Biden-Harris administration wants to do. And it gets worse. Because let's talk about your health care. Your personal health care. Your personal health care, and I want to go to Jim Jordan. Let me show you. This is Jim Jordan. He's speaking to about public health and the power of the CDC against you. This is the power of the CDC. They're more powerful. The Biden-Harris administration, talking via Dr. Resnick, want to have more power in the CDC than your members of Congress, your mayors, your state legislature. No. All of them have to answer to the CDC. Listen to this.
I think that depends on the decision the elected officials make, not the unelected official.
But would you think that you'd need public health guidance and information and knowledge to inform those decisions?
We take guidance and that's why we have hearings. We take testimony from people. That's why you're here today. We're getting information. Of course, that's always part of the process. But in the end, you don't get to decide. The public health official doesn't get to decide. The people whose names are on the ballot elected to the state legislature, they get to decide. That's how it works in our system. Public health officials ever been wrong? State and local public health officials ever been wrong on orders they do?
I don't know for sure. I'm sure there's been cases, yes.
How about the recent one in New York? The state and local public health officials who said we should put COVID-positive patients back into nursing homes. Seems like that was probably wrong. Been nice maybe if the legislature got to weigh in on that and change that decision, people's lives might have been saved. We got all kinds of examples where that's wrong. Of course, we need the check and balance of the elected officials to make these decisions. You agree?
I also think there's emergency situations where they would have to act in immediacy.
No one.
Do you see the answers that you're getting? He's asking a very simple question. Is it? Oops, that wasn't supposed to come up. He's asking, Representative Jim Jordan is asking a very simple question. The power of the CDC should not be greater than states, elected officials, in Congress or in your state legislature. They shouldn't have the power to determine your life, that they have more power than the people, that it's a violation of the 9th and 10th Amendments. And what we're hearing from the Biden administration through their operatives in the CDC and elsewhere, that they're saying, well, no, that's not true. That they have more power and that they have unlimited emergency powers. We've seen what happens when you give a government official unlimited emergency power. That's Andrew Cuomo, the disgraced individual. And if you think he was disgraced and thrown out because of 11 women that he sexually abused, no. Andrew Cuomo was not removed because of the sexual abuse. He was thrown out because no one wanted to talk about the 16,000 people who died in nursing homes and the cover-up of that. Because we know for a fact from the people who were in his administration that told the Democratic Party, and only the Democratic Party, they went to the Democratic legislature, they went to the Assembly and the state Senate, And they directly told the Democrats that they lied, that 16,000 people died and that they covered it up. Andrew Cuomo's secretary told the Democrats this in a private meeting, not for the public to know, not for the news media to know. It got leaked. That's why Andrew Cuomo had to go, because people were upset. Because they killed 16,000 people and someone needed to be held accountable. But instead of accountability, instead of doing an investigation, finding out who in New York State government allowed this to happen, who suggested this, who gave the power to Cuomo to do this, who allowed Cuomo to do it without any question, who allowed the corruption and the cover-up to occur, rather than deal with that and actually make New York State government better, possibly going as far as the federal government, we don't know for sure, but because we saw the same thing happening with Governor Whitmer out of Michigan and Governor Newsom out of California, Governor Wolf out of Pennsylvania. There were multiple states that were taking their lead and it seems acting in coordination with New York State. This was possibly a national issue that was about to be exposed, and the easy way out is Andrew Cuomo assaulted 11 women sexually. He's got to go. Me Too. Yay! We got a win for Me Too. By the way, Andrew Cuomo has more power today than he did as governor. He's sitting on $18.5 million in his election fund that he's going to give to certain Democrats once they beg, plead, and promise to do what Andrew Cuomo says. $18.5 million, more than enough money to control and to turn around any election in New York State, and in fact, multiple elections in New York State. And he's going to make those Democrats beg, borrow, plead, get on their knees, and promise to do what Andrew Cuomo wants. And no one's paying attention to Andrew Cuomo anymore. He's not in the news cycle. He's not the governor. He's just the guy who did sexual assault, so no one's paying attention to him anymore. And he can do anything he wants with that money to make Democrats beg, bleed, because they want the money so that they can get reelected and stay in power. When they removed Andrew Cuomo and didn't charge him with the investigations, when they didn't criminally charge him with the sexual assaults, when they didn't do the investigation on the murder of 16,000 Americans, guess what? They let him get away scot clean. They protected themselves. And this is a trend where we're seeing Americans, thousands of Americans are in Afghanistan at this moment, and the Biden-Harris administration doesn't care. 16,000 Americans in New York State. There was 4,000 estimated in Michigan. There's, I believe, 6,000 estimated in California were killed by their governors because of the emergency powers in nursing homes, and the Democratic Party doesn't care. In fact, you can't speak about it. And if you speak about it, they will throw you out. And I dare, let's have that conversation. I have asked every elected official to come on here from the Democratic Party. I have spoken to Broome County Executive Jason Garnar. He hasn't shown up. I've spoken to Assemblywoman Donna Lapardo. She won't show up. I've tried to reach out to Congressman Antonio Delgado. He won't respond. They won't answer these things. They will not talk. They won't answer these questions because you're not supposed to think about it. You're supposed to make sure that when the CDC says you can't do anything in your life, you can't make any choices, that the government can tell you what kind of health care you're going to have, when the government is more in charge of your life and your body than you are, you're supposed to say, thank you very much. And I think that's wrong. Maybe you disagree. I know YouTube doesn't like it. I know Facebook and Twitter, they don't like it. They're giving problems with the signal from what I can tell. And they're showing, from what I'm seeing on my system, they're giving all kinds of hell to the system because you're not supposed to know about this. You're not supposed to discuss this. You're not supposed to have this conversation. You are the problem. And that's very upsetting. You know what? But it gets worse. It gets worse. For parents who have a child, for anyone who's younger watching this, maybe you have a brother, a sister, a niece, maybe you have a daughter. This is how bad it's getting. We're seeing that the internet overlords, the Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, that they are going out there, and not only are they targeting children as young as 8, they're targeting children as young as 8 to spread their message and to mold and change their lives, just like we're seeing with critical race theory in our schools. No, it gets even worse because they're allowing sex trafficking of 12-year-old girls. Oh, you think I'm lying? I can hear it now. Mike, you're out of your mind. How could you possibly say that? I don't believe you. Don't believe me. Believe the conversation that Senator Marsha Blackburn had with representatives of Facebook. Here it goes right here.
Information I've seen about the presence of content on Facebook and Instagram that is used to recruit women into domestic servitude. This is a kind of trafficking where people are forced to work against their will for little or no pay. Their passports are often taken away from them. They can be auctioned online and abused. And I have a poster that is behind me. I hope that you can see this. I've seen information suggesting that Facebook knew this content was on its website, but did nothing to delete it until Apple threatened to drop Facebook from the Apple App Store. To quote from a Facebook internal report, and I quote, "Was this issue known to Facebook before the BBC inquiry and Apple escalation? Yes," end quote. But quoting again, "Due to the underreporting of this information and absence of proactive detection, domestic servitude content remained on the platform. Removing our applications from Apple platforms would have had potentially severe consequences to the business," end quote. Ms. Davis, did Facebook know about content on its platform used to recruit women into forced slavery, and why did you not remove it until Apple threatened to drop Facebook from the App Store?
Respectfully, Senator, I don't agree with that characterization of what occurred. In fact, we have policies against sex trafficking.
So you notice she didn't say that's not true. You would think she would say that's not true. That didn't happen. That there weren't sex trafficking programs on Facebook. They would say that Instagram wouldn't allow that. You would hear them, that Google prevents sex trafficking. But they didn't say that. They said they didn't agree with the way it was characterized. You made us look bad. That's what they had to say. You made us look bad. That's what Facebook is worried about. That's what what Google is worried about. That's what they're upset about, because you made us look bad. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they're upset about how they look. It's not that they did it. It's that you made us look bad by telling people what we were doing. Think about it. And these are the same people who are telling you, for your own good, we're going to fact check with these fact check groups that are paid by the people who have the policies. We're going to fact check you. We're going to ban you for saying something that is absolutely factual. You quoted the CDC. You're quoting AP News, Reuters. You're talking about facts that actually exist in this nation, how dare you think for yourself you're a problem? And when they get caught allowing sex trafficking on their systems, then they go, oh, well, you're not supposed to make us look bad. Why are you making us look bad? We don't like that you mischaracterize the fact that we allowed sex trafficking on our channels. That's what you just heard them say. This is talking to Senator Marsha Blackburn. This happened on September 30th, 4 days ago. This is going on in our government right now. And I know that the internet overlords don't like me talking about this, and they're making it hard for this to be heard. But the links will be at the end of this description so that you can know about it. And when I say that this is something that we are only learning about because of news media outside the United States, I'm not kidding, because let me show you. This is the article from September 30th. This comes from The Guardian, which is a left-leaning source. Congress grills Facebook executive on Instagram's harmful effect on children, that they are abusing young girls, 13-year-old girls, 8-year-old girls. This is what Facebook and Instagram are doing at this time. Senator Blumenthal, a Democrat, says, quote, "This research is a bombshell. It's powerful, gripping, riveting evidence that Facebook knows of the harmful effects of its site on children and that it has concealed those facts and findings." Blumenthal noted that his office conducted its own research into Instagram, posing as a 13-year-old girl and following accounts associated with eating disorders to see what Instagram would recommend. It found the platform sent the account further into the rabbit hole of harmful content. Blumenthal says, quote, "Our research shows right now, in real time, Instagram's recommendations latch onto a person's insecurities, a young woman's vulnerability about their bodies, and drags them into dark places that glorify eating disorders and self-harm." This is also the same company that you just saw Marsha Blackburn went around, and she's telling them they were promoting sex trafficking. The same company. This is what's going on. And how dare you mention this? You're not supposed to know this. You're not supposed to discuss this. You're not supposed to have a conversation about this. How dare you think? How dare you criticize them for sex trafficking and abusing 13-year-old girls? By the way, Biden's great. Forget about the Americans in Afghanistan. They don't exist because they have already been discarded. They might as well die because the Biden-Harris administration doesn't care, and our border is going to be wide open, and Rachel Rollins is okay with every one of the 400,000 that are about to come into America are going to go into your home and steal your stuff, and she says it's okay. This is what the government's telling us, folks. This is what the government is telling us right now. And the news media, they don't want to tell you about it. They don't want to speak about that. They're not going to tell you that you have a third choice, that you have a choice for governor. They don't want you to know about that. They won't cover it. It's not newsworthy. They don't want to tell you about any of the pandemic medication mandate protests. Yeah, I have to word it just like that. Because if I don't, YouTube said that they're going to remove this channel. That they have threatened us. After 10 years, over 1,200 videos, I'm providing you the links and the evidence. I have done the videos. I have published it. And so it's factual information. And they're going to say, no. You can't do that. You cannot do that. They do not want people to think. They don't want you to think. How dare you? And they don't want you to know that there's going to be a rally. They just don't want you to think about that. They don't want you to know about that because that's not important. What's important is that you obey. Otherwise, you too could become one of the Americans that were discarded in Afghanistan. You too could have any number of these illegal aliens break into your home. You too could be the next person who's shot by a member of Antifa because you said you shared a thought. You could be. And they won't, the social media, they're not going to talk about it. The news media, they're not going to talk about it. Oh, Antifa shot you? Oh, that's a shame. Gun control. We need more gun control. No, we need more Antifa control. I think that makes a lot more sense. I think we need to stop Facebook with this sex slave trade being on their platform, which may still be there now. We need to stop Instagram from harming 13-year-old girls. We need to hold our country accountable. We need to make sure these elected officials know that they can't lie to us and say, oh, no, it's okay. I'm just going to make sure that, the taxes, it's not my fault. It's those big greedy companies, even though we know when we tax them, they're going to wind up passing it on to you. So you're going to get a 16% increase in taxes, but you're in the middle class or you're poor. That's okay. Folks, aren't you upset about this? I know some people are. I'm watching the comments here from John. I'm seeing them from Tony. I'm seeing them from, I think Mavis is watching the show, and I know that there's John R. who's watching this, and Mike is watching the program. James Lucid, Jason from Bing is watching. I know people are watching this. And by the way, if you've made it this far, 2 hours into the program, then please do subscribe. Please do subscribe. It's important. It helps us to make sure that people have a right to the First Amendment, to share this experience from anywhere in the world. I don't care if you're in Sweden, if you're in the United Kingdom, you're in France, you're in Australia, Peru, please, Canada, please speak. Join us. Talk up. Because if we allow our governments to continue in the path that they're going right now, there is no such thing as freedom. There is no such thing as truth. There's just obey. And that's a problem. I have a big problem with that. I think we all should have a problem with that. I'm not saying that you have to become a conservative Republican. I've never said that. I'm not saying that now. But I think there is something to be said and say, no, that's wrong. And we shouldn't allow that to happen, especially not in America, the most free nation in the world, a nation that is so free, that is so dedicated as its principles of being a great nation, of making sure that you, the public, have the power, that they have provided us the 9th and 10th Amendments, besides the Constitution, besides the Declaration of Independence, to say that you are the power, that you need to vote, and that you are the most important person in government. Not the president, not members of Congress, not members of the Senate, not your state legislature, your mayor, none of them. You are the most powerful person when you vote. And if you don't vote, that wasn't supposed to come up. And if you don't vote, well then, that's your fault. Agent Blackman, hey, Agent Black, it's good to be here. I'm glad you've been watching, it seems. Agent Black, who's from the United Kingdom, mentions, we do not consent. And he thinks the show is going well. Thank you for that. I agree with you. And we shouldn't consent, not blindly anyway. Maybe you think, maybe you're a progressive. Maybe you're part of the Democratic Socialists of America, whether it's the Washington chapter or the chapter in Ithaca or somewhere else in this nation. Maybe you think that what you're doing is great. Okay. I'm asking you to think about what you're doing. I'm thinking about the consequences. And I'm telling everyone, even members of Democratic Socialists of America, members of Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, members of Citizen Action, members of the Democratic Party on the left or in the center, I'm asking everyone, say, do not give your consent lightly. Don't just let it go. Don't just say, well, CNN said it, so it must be true, because CNN has never lied before, except for the times that we've caught them lying repeatedly. MSNBC would never lie to me, except for all the times that we've caught them where they have lied. The New York Times would never lie to me, except for all the reporters that have been fired because they wrote up fictitious stories and misrepresented the truth. My local news media would never lie to me, except they won't cover stories, won't go out and report actually things actually happening in your community. And when they do sometimes do that, they recharacterize and mischaracterize exactly what's going on in the story, literally lying about what's happening in front of your face. They wouldn't do these things. They wouldn't do these things like going to a NASCAR event, like we see on NBC. NBC Sports would never lie to me, even as we listen to the crowd.
Thank you to all. Told me, as you can hear the chants from the crowd. Let's go, Brandon. Brandon, you told me you were going to.
They would never possibly lie. And even as I'm watching something live and recharacterize it, why does that keep going off? Recharacterize that and tell me that the things I'm hearing live, the things I'm seeing live, they're not true. Agent Black goes, always watch. Sometimes I have to watch replay. I know. And for those who don't know, in England, in the United Kingdom, they're 7 hours ahead of us. So for them right now, this is 11:30 at night. So I truly appreciate, Agent Black, that you watch the program. Whether you're watching it live or on replay, I don't care. I just love that you're watching it, especially when you are live and you are able to speak with us. Because I know, 7 hours, it's 11:30 at night. I thank you for that. And I know there's people, last week we had someone from Sweden. We've had people from Germany who've been on the program. We've had people from Peru who are watching the program, in Canada. Folks, people are paying attention because wherever America goes, the rest of the Western world is following. They're following us. Look at Kemi Badenoch. She's an MP. Essentially, she's the equivalent of a congressman in the United Kingdom. Kemi Badenoch, who is a first-generation immigrant into the United Kingdom, who came from Africa, is incredibly successful. This black woman has gone out and she is fighting tooth and nail for the people of the United Kingdom. And you know what she's fighting against? Black Lives Matter. That the BLM movement is trying to go into England with all the issues of America, all the politics of America, and she's trying to bring it into England and into France. Macron has already said, President Macron of France has already said, they will not do this. They do not allow critical race theory to be taught in France because it is inherently racist. In the United Kingdom right now, and Agent Black, you can correct me if I am misreporting this, Kemi Badenoch and many officials, many of the MPs are fighting right now against critical race theory. They're fighting against the BLM movement because it is a purely American idea. It does not apply to their nation, and they disagree with it. And then when we look in the United States, hey, well, of course, there's critical race theory everywhere. It's all about race. You listen to any Democrat speak about any issue, and I guarantee you, before they finish, they will have at least mentioned the connection to race at least once. They are their party is the most racist group I've ever seen. They are so dedicated and centralized on the idea of race. And it is always centered on the idea of the critical race theory the gender identity politics, the intersectionality, saying, well, you're either a racist or you're a victim. Neither one of those are good things. And neither one of them are true. But this is what they want to teach the children. And this is what they're trying to teach in other parts of the world. They're going out and they're reaching out right now. And in the United Kingdom, they are trying to convince people of critical race theory that started in the United States that says that Martin Luther King is wrong, that Mahatma Gandhi is wrong, that Malcolm X is wrong, that any of the great leaders of the 20th century, that they're all wrong, and that you are inherently a racist. And if you disagree with them, then that guarantees not only are you a racist, you're a white supremacist. You're a German from 1940s, from the 1940s, because I can't use that word either. That's terrifying to me. That this is the export. So if we're not fighting this here in America, the rest of the world is getting the result. They're getting this too. They're being forced and they're being pushed to do what America is doing, which is falling apart. You don't think we're falling apart? Did you see the unemployment rate? Did you see the number of available jobs? Have you seen what inflation is doing? Did you see how many taxes they're adding on, even though they promised you they wouldn't? Did you see how they abandoned people in Afghanistan, abandoned them to terrorists? That we are now considering spending hundreds of billions of dollars to give it to the Taliban. The Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration is considering paying global terrorists billions of dollars. And you shouldn't be surprised by that, because the Barack Obama presidency paid Iran hundreds, $450 billion, which they then turned around, just like then Secretary of State John Kerry promised us. They turned around and they paid for global terror around the world. Literally, the Barack Obama administration paid for global terror around the world. When we don't pay attention to this stuff, everyone is getting hurt. People in France, in England, in Australia, Canada, Germany, down in Peru. It's around the world, folks. Now, you can always say, Mike, I just don't agree with you, though. You can tell me. You can say, I'm looking at the same sources you are. I'm looking at the same credible news agencies. I'm reading the same quotes. I'm reading everything in context, just like you did, Mike. I've spent the 12 hours a day, 22 news sources from around the world, and I disagree. And I will tell you, okay, that's fine. Why? If you're looking at the same left-leaning news sources that I use almost entirely, if you're looking at the same quotes, the same context, the same information, and you're coming up with an answer that doesn't match what I'm trying to present to you right now, if you think America is the best thing that could happen to America is that we have no border, that people just flood our nation, that you don't get arrested for breaking and entering, for stealing, that we should defund our police and we should allow our allies like Israel and Taiwan to be without defense, that they have no ability to defend their nations, and they have no ability to rely on the United States, that we abandon all our allies. If you think these things are good for America, please explain. I want to hear that. I want to understand why you're saying that's a good thing. Don't tell me I'm evil. Don't tell me I'm a bad guy. Don't tell me I'm Orange Man bad. No. Tell me why I'm wrong. Please tell me these are the facts that exist. Explain to me how this is a positive thing. Because I don't see it. I don't think anyone rationally would see it. I think if you're a partisan, if you're just going straight down the line, partisan, don't think about it, I do whatever I'm told, yeah, sure. I guess that would make sense then. But if you actually are thinking about this stuff, I don't know how you could ever possibly agree. But I look forward to hearing the comments. I look forward to seeing the comments. Tell us. Write a comment. I read the comments. I watch everything that everyone says. Please, reach out to us. Leave us your comments. Tell us why you think I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong, tell me how you think the progressive plan, the censorship from the internet overlords, from the news media, tell me how that's a positive thing. Tell me how it's not propaganda. Tell me how it's not destroying our nations. And again, I said that with a plural, nations, because it's not just America. America's having it happen first, but it's affecting all of us around the globe. And every other nation that's watching this, you're next. If America can't fix this, if we allow this to continue, if we keep going down this path, well, you're next. And you should be very, very concerned. But with that, let me say, I forgot to put on I had a new trailer. I won't put it on. I had a new trailer put up and created just for you guys. I'm going to put it out there a little bit later this week. But until the next time, folks, I want to thank you. I want you to be well. And I hope that in the week, throughout the week, I'm going to be doing more videos, more work. I want you to all have a great week. Actually, I think I am going, and I'm going to show you, if I can find it real quick. Oh, I know where it is. I have a little surprise for you guys. There it is. If I can get this to work right. Bear with me for a second, folks. Here it is. Stop. Right, and there we go. Oops, wrong thing. I got something I'm going to show you guys. It's brand new. Something really interesting. And come on, and let's take a look. I'll play it again for you guys. Oh, I put the wrong one up. I put the wrong one up. That one has the logos from, well, I have one without logos on it. Tell me, do you like it? I hope you do. I got to put the one without the logos up. But otherwise, folks, I want to thank you for spending time with me, for not watching football, for watching this after you watch football. I want you all to be well, and I'll talk to you again very, very soon.